Maria Krauel. I am an advisor with AthLife, and today we are going to be giving you a presentation titled Beyond the Pros, Resources for Professional and Former Professional Athletes. And I'm going to hand it over to my teammates, Matt and Connor, so they can introduce themselves.
Hey, I'm Matt Darby. I'm an advisor.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm Matt Darby. I'm
okay.
Go ahead, Matt.
Oh, sorry. I was hearing someone talking. I'm sorry. I'm an AthLife advisor. I've been here with AthLife for the last year, or this is my second year as an AthLife advisor. And my background is I've played in the NFL for 6 years and have been working in the career development field for the last 7 years. And I look forward to this conversation with you all.
And my name is Connor Golden Sims. So I've been with AthLife for about 2 months now. So I'm the newest member of the team. But my background is an athletic academic advising at the college level. And I've been doing that for the last 5 years now. So before we get started, I just wanted to ask a quick question to the audience. So in a typical year, how many former student athletes come back to see you guys and ask about educational and professional opportunities with your organization, with the university? So if when you get a chance, just drop that in the chat so that we're curious about how many former student athletes actually use some of their resources when you come back. So when you get a chance, just make sure you drop that in the chat, and then we'll talk about that a little later. So here is a little snapshot of our current partners. So we partner with the professional in the NFL, the NBA, the MLS, and the University of Virginia at the college level. So at the NFL level, we work with the Trust, the NFL Players Association. On the NBA level, we work with the NBA, obviously, the NBA G League, the NBA Players Legacy Fund, the National Basketball Legends Retired Players Association, and then the professional soccer ranks, we work with the MLS and the MLS Players Association. And as I mentioned before, we work with the University of Virginia at the college level. So a little bit about who we are. So we were formed in 2004 to help with the educational career development and the life skills of our professional athletes. So over the course of those years, we worked with over about 3,000 professional and post-professional athletes. Primarily, we work with the guys that don't get seen a lot, right? So we're not working with the LeBron Jameses, we're not working with the JJ Watts, we're not working with the Darlington Nagbys. Me and us and our co-hosts, obviously, we had a conversation yesterday. We work with the guys that slip through the cracks, right? So making sure that they're being okay and helping them with their future goals, because they're not on the sponsorships, they're not on the commercial opportunities. So making sure that they have those opportunities as well to succeed in the future. So we got to make sure that they get those opportunities in their life that they're not getting at the big time level, like those guys that you see most often. So the NFL, the NBA, the MLS, they don't have a long time in those leagues, right? The NFL stands for not for long. The average career that you guys know statistics is about 3 to 4 years. The NBA, it's about 4 to 5 years. And the MLS is about 4 to 5 years as well. So these guys are done and retiring from those leagues, 26, 27 years old. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? So making sure that those guys have a plan in place to make sure that they can be successful is really what we're about, and what we like to make sure that they have that plan once they do get done with playing their professional sport. And as I mentioned before, I was a former academic counselor at the college level. So primarily working with football. So when you look back at those times, it's really that hard balance trying to figure out, helping them get to the league, obviously making sure that they're accomplishing their dreams, but at the same time, having those real conversations that you can have a plan B. Don't put all your eggs into one basket, making sure that you have that outlet in case you don't make the professional leagues, or if you do, making sure that you have a contingency plan once you do get done playing. So one of the first things that we do is we empower those we serve. So we want to make sure we figure out what your passion is. What is your why? Why do you get up in the morning? Is it for your friends? Is it for your family? making sure that you know who you are as a person. So making sure that your identity is not wrapped up in who you are as a professional athlete. And just to give you guys an example, this is Corey Nelson, one of our externs that participated in the program with us for the past 3 weeks. So it was really valuable to kind of hear his input and his perspective on what it takes to transition from the league, because what I found very valuable with what he said to a lot of our colleagues is that a lot of guys feel like their identity is wrapped up in sport. So for us, is just making sure that these guys understand that once you do transition, there are other opportunities for you, and we try to empower those guys to help them figure out that they do have a lot of opportunities outside the football field. So with Corey's internship, he was able to get a lot of that practical experience that you don't get oftentimes at the college level. So, at the college level, they work out at 6 in the morning and get done at 6 p.m. at night. So what are they doing in between time to prepare them for their future jobs? It's really hard to do that. So what we do is try to give them some internship and some practical experience to make sure that they're ready for the real world. So Corey was able to help with our social media outlets. He helped with Twitter, LinkedIn, as well as our website. Corey also sat in our one-on-one meetings with our athletes, as well as the phone calls with the NFLPA and our weekly staff meetings, just to see how we function on a daily basis. And he was also able to take the strong interest inventory test. So the strong interest inventory is an opportunity for guys to figure out what they really like to do. So it shows a snapshot of their strongly likes, things that they really dislike, and it puts together a report for them that also generates a list of jobs that they could potentially pursue once they're done playing. So for me, I was a strong social, so helping out with social work, advising, mentoring. There are 4 different categories, I believe, and Maria and Matt can jump in if I'm wrong, but it's investigative, social, artistic, and creative. So once you finish that survey, it's about 196 questions. Once you figure that out, you're gonna test into one of those outlets. And then depending on how high it is, they're going to show you a list of about 10 jobs where you can kind of figure out what jobs that you may be interested in pursuing and researching once you get done with your playing career. And the last thing Corey was able to do, he was able to do a presentation for us. So we really like to give a lot of our guys practical work experience, like I said, to prepare them for future jobs that they may pursue in the future. We're also educators as well. So we've helped over about 500 individuals for their continued education goals over the course of time. We've given away about 15 million in scholarship money to post-professional athletes to help them with their continued education, whether that's their undergraduate degree or also getting their master's degree. And we also have given about $26 million to academic institutions to help guys finish their undergraduate or master's degree, or even get that doctorate degree as well. So we try to figure out a plan for them, because once they get done, they don't have that regimented structure that they normally had in college and in the pros. So we try to educate them on different time management tips to make sure that they have that sense of direction and that sense of positivity when they get done. And a lot of guys really appreciate that, because it sets the example for them moving forward. So when they come back and get that undergraduate degree and that graduate degree, it really impacts their family, right, for future generations as well. So if they want to show that they've accomplished a goal, they can show that to their family. Hey, I went back, got my undergraduate degree, got my master's degree, and even got their doctorate, to show future generations, hey, that this is possible. And the last thing that we do is we build futures. So we make sure that we accomplish your goals, whether that's, being a coach, whether that's being a doctor, a lawyer, trying to figure out what these guys want to do. Is really what we try to do. We try to sit down and figure out what they want to do. What are your primary goals? So for example, we like to meet guys where they are. They might not be where you want them to be, but we try to work backwards depending on where they're at in that search process. So for example, if a guy wanted to be a collegiate coach, we take them through that process on being a collegiate coach. So for example, we have 2 phases: the exploration phase, and the career development phase. So the exploration phase is really helping those guys figure out, hey, do I really want to be a coach? What are your short-term goals? What are your what do you value? What are you going to instill in these student athletes to help them be the most successful versions of themselves, right? So helping guys understand like coaching is a different animal, right? It's a volatile profession. Do you want to be in Texas one year? Do you want to be in Arkansas the next year? So helping guys understand that coaching, there's different routes in coaching that you can go to, but at the same time being ready, do you want to have a family? Do you want to have those things? So we have those conversations to make sure that they really understand that what they're getting into, and then if they're qualified as well. A lot of coaching jobs want you to have a master's degree now. So if a guy came back and didn't have their undergraduate degree, we're working with them to finish that undergraduate degree and get that master's degree as well, so that they can be qualified to pursue that opportunity. So we're really trying to develop that career plan and exploration phase. And then we move on to phase 2, which is actually getting the job. So helping with the networking, the informational interviews, the mock interviews, the resumes, the cover letters, really touching on those things to make sure that these guys are prepared to go into that interview, and that they're confident and that they can really get that job once they get done. So once they get through that exploration phase, developing a plan, and then finally getting that job is really what we're trying to do to make sure that these guys finalize that job moving forward. And then once they do finalize that job, it's really like how you take them through their freshman, the senior year at the college level. It's a rewarding process where you've taken a guy from a freshman to senior year, they graduate. It's the same thing that we do on the professional level, but just making sure that these guys are taken care of for the next 30 to 40 years. It's really the rewarding part of our process. So now Marie is going to talk a little bit about go in depth a little bit about the resources that we offer through the different partners.
So as Connor mentioned, AthLife, we are a service organization who has partnership agreements with many leagues and unions serving professional and post-professional athletes. For the purpose of this presentation, I want to give you just a little bit more information on what that means. We know that your former student athletes, those even that go on to professional careers, tend to return to your campuses, many times reaching out to you guys once they have retired from professional sports and trying to figure out their next steps. And we want to empower you all to know what is out there for them. These are, in most cases, free services if they meet the eligibility criteria for them. We are just very knowledgeable about them because we happen to be the service provider that provides some of these services through their leagues and unions. So for those of you that work with guys that have gone on and played in the NBA, AthLife has service agreements with the NBA Players Legacy Fund, and the NBRPA. And depending on the number of years that a player played in the NBA or the NBA G League, they may be eligible for one-on-one advising services that can assist them with their career development and their continuing education. More in depth, I think our work, we really spend or have a lot of more NFL guys. As you guys know, there's obviously a lot more of them. And the bulk of our work is working with those that have retired from the NFL. And those that have retired from the NFL and had 2 credited seasons in the NFL, they have access to the trust powered by the NFL Players Association. Through this partnership with us, we provide assistance for guys who are looking to complete their undergraduate degree, continue their education through graduate school. We also provide career development services for them. And former NFL players that are registered with the trust have access to the trust scholarship, which allows them to seek up to $20,000 per calendar year to return to school to complete their undergraduate degree, to continue their education through like a master's degree, doctoral program, whatever it may be, or to pursue a vocational program or a certification. So if you have on your campus a degree completion program or somebody that works with them, you may hear from one of us advisors that are reaching back out to you to let you know that one of your former students is looking to return to school. So we work very closely with athletic advisors on campus for this population as we're helping them navigate that process of returning to school. Additionally, we also work with Major League Soccer players. both former and active. We have a service agreement with Major League Soccer, and we receive referrals through their player engagement department to provide career development advising. We've also helped some develop their continuing education exploration, or helping them develop a game plan for degree completion.
So I wanted to talk about in regards to the again, the working with the post-professional athletes. Again, that's our area of expertise, is working with post-professional athletes. And in regards to the referrals that we typically get from the NFL and other leagues, we work with a wide variety of players and all points on the spectrum. We work with players who are very clear about what their career goals are, as well as who they are, knowing who they are outside of just being a professional athlete. But we also get guys who have no clue on both of those points. We also get guys who are financially stable to guys who are struggling to make it. And we even get guys who are, recently retired in their 20s, anywhere, and guys who are nearing retirement age in their 60s, and anywhere in between. So we get a wide range of guys that we work with, but we, like was said before, we support them and meet them where they are, and we try to teach them and equip them to be autonomous and to have some agency for themselves. In regards to degree to completion, we always try to work as a team with the academic advisors, with the schools, as well as with the players themselves. So obviously communication is very important for everyone, and we try to keep that up and try to emphasize that with the players themselves. Student athletes or former professional players, they have strong bonds to their schools that they played at, and they want to, it's very important for a lot of them to complete their degrees at their particular schools. So it's important for us to try to work as a team to help them accomplish that. And sometimes the school doesn't have the resources or cannot provide the full funding to help them complete their degrees, and that's where the resources from the league or their teams particularly comes into play, and that's where the trust comes in to play as well. And I'll kind of review a little bit more about that or dive into our trust scholarship. Like Maria said earlier, in order to qualify for the trust, the player has to play at least 2 seasons in the NFL. The scholarship covers up to $20,000 per year for degree programs and up to $5,000 for vocational programs and grad certificates. The scholarship does not reimburse. So if a student is in a current classes or they've taken previous classes, the scholarship will not pay for those previous classes or current classes. It's only for future classes. So that's important to note, as well as that the scholarship expires on December 15th of the year that it's awarded. So if they don't use up all their award by December 15th, the remainder of the balance of that scholarship expires. However, the athlete can apply for another scholarship year using the scholarship period. So they can reapply for that scholarship up to $20,000 the following year if they don't utilize the full scholarship the previous year, or if they need to continue their schooling the next year. So they have an unlimited time to utilize that particular scholarship. So they can apply for the scholarship 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or however long they need in order to complete their schoolwork. The other thing that the scholarship covers tuition and fees. It does not cover books, food, boarding, or any past liens or fees that are owed. And the scholarship does not allow for standalone classes to be taken. Any classes taken must be part of a degree program or a certificate program. So those are some important features in regards to the scholarship. And obviously in regards to qualifying programs, really looking for 3 basic things. It has to be an educational institution, obviously a college or university. It has to be accredited, and also the student needs to be enrolled on a full-time or part-time basis. Those are the main 3 requirements that we're looking for in regards to qualifying programs for the scholarship. There's also 3 application periods, specific application periods throughout the year that they can apply for the scholarship, and they kind of coincide with the semesters, the spring, summer, and fall semesters. And I'll go over that a little bit more in detail on the next slide. And the last thing on this slide is the barriers that we kind of typically see for our student athletes coming back to try to finish their school. One being liens or holds or outstanding fees that they owe. So sometimes they leave early and aren't aware of fees that may have accumulated over the years. So we have to overcome those. Sometimes it's low GPAs or expired credits. Sometimes guys are coming back 15, 20 years after they've left college, and sometimes those credits are no longer valid. And then there's just the plain old adulting 101. They're living their lives, they're adults, they're raising families, trying to get jobs, trying to keep jobs. And sometimes mental health concerns are coming to play. So we try to identify all those things and address them as early as possible in order for them to have a successful outcome. And the next slide, Connor. So if you have a player that you know is going to be going pro or wants to go pro, will be trying out, just some quick tips that we offer. Number one, have them get to know their player engagement reps, both on the team level and on the league level. It's very important for them. The player engagement reps are kind of like they provide the holistic development for the athlete. So they help them succeed in the off the field endeavors and things that don't pertain to actually playing on the field or the court. So it's very important for them to get to know their player engagement reps. They'll help them access different resources within the local community or league-wide if those resources are needed. Then the next thing will be, excuse me, league and union earned benefits. Again, things such as the trust or league earned or earned benefits, I should say. So each league will be different in regards to the different type of benefits that a person can earn or will earn, depending on how long they've played in the league. And it's important for the athlete to know that and understand what those benefits are and when they kind of kick in. And understand that the league benefits and union benefits are 2 separate things. So the league is for the league and the union is for the players. So sometimes they can offer the same thing, but via different sources. So it's important to know all those things. And then also just attend their union rep, get to know their union rep on their team, because they'll be the person to help them understand the updates and the benefits when they occur, typically during a new collective bargaining agreement. Next is help them understand that AthLife is a resource for them. Again, our expertise is in the area of post-professional transitions. We work one-on-one with guys, and we help them, as Connor has mentioned previously, we help guys over time access over $25 million in scholarship money. We've helped them complete over 615 educational programs, including over 150 undergraduate programs. And we helped former players attain over 410 new jobs. So we were very experienced in these particular areas. And like I said, that's our area of expertise, working with post-professional transitions. In regards to some of the things that we do, post-professional development-wise, again, we work with career exploration and assessments. Again, we have the strong interest inventory as well as the DISC that we can help them out with. Work on resumes, LinkedIn, even interview prep and mock interviews, help them identify some externship and internship opportunities with their respective league, as well as helping them with networking, identified opportunities and how to go about networking, as well as developing an action plan. And then Connor has mentioned the academic programs as well, the undergraduate, graduate program degrees, as well as the vocational and certifications. And then with the planning ahead, it's important to help the athletes understand that you have to plan ahead. Money isn't immediately available for these scholarships and for these earned benefits. It takes time for them to apply, takes time for them to be accepted, and it takes time for these monies to be awarded. For example, the trust scholarship, again, we have 3 application periods specifically. And again, they kind of coincide with the spring, summer, and fall semesters. For example, this year, the deadline for the first period to apply for the scholarship was March 12th. And that provides money for summer classes. The second period, the expiration for or the deadline for the application period is June 25th. That will provide funding for fall classes. And then the third period, the deadline is October 22nd, which will provide funding for our scholarships for spring classes of the following year in 2022. And then lastly is the trust, the scholarship payments. How schools get paid, basically, the scholarship does not pass hands through the player or the athlete. What happens is the player will need to get a invoice from the school, then transfers that invoice to the trust administrator. Then the trust administrator will pay the school directly. So that way it kind of helps the process be a little bit more efficient and effective. So those are some of the things. And if you want to know a little bit more about the Players Trust and some of the qualifying programs and how they operate, you can go to that particular website, theplayerstrust.com, and look up that website, and it has a lot of good information on that particular earned benefit for the players. So now I'm going to transfer back over to Maria, and she's going to share some success stories for you.
So as Matt mentioned in detail a little bit, we've worked with many athletes over the course of many years that AthLife has been around providing these types of services. But one of the ways that we are successful is in doing that is in working with campus advisors, athletic advisors, and really trying to be a team and helping those. We are advisors, but our role is more process advisors and helping these guys utilize these benefits that they have and reconnecting them back to you guys so that you guys can help them more. You guys know your institutions well and help them get to graduation. As we know, some schools have more resources to help former athletes complete their degrees. Not all of them have. So we really wanted you guys to make you aware of what is out there specifically for your NFL players. If you have many of those, there are these wonderful resources. So when you do have all those players coming back, and they're asking you for help, have them check, where did you play? Does your union, does your league have any resources that you can tap into? Most of these are earned benefits, so they are free to the player. The players are not paying us for the services that we provide. We worked with thousands over the years, but just some example of some of the success stories that we've had. I'll give you an example of a Major League Soccer player. He left his institution after one season of soccer and got drafted into Major League Soccer. As part of his professional contract, he had money that he could use to go back to school and complete his degree. The challenge is that his college where he played was on the West Coast, and he was drafted by a team in the East Coast, and his school at that time did not have a lot of online offerings for him to continue to make progress towards his degree. So he worked with AthLife, and we helped develop a game plan for him that included first pursuing an associate's degree through a community college near the team he was playing so that he can go at his own pace. Once he completed his associate's degree, we helped him navigate his interests and his goals beyond soccer, and then allowed him to identify a bachelor's degree program through another school, which he successfully graduated. And then a few years later, he continued to work with us as he was still playing and helping him prepare for life post-soccer. And eventually after that, he pursued a master's degree, and now he is an entrepreneur. So that is one example of, and this is over the course of 8 years or 9 years that we've worked with him. Not everything happens overnight. Sometimes we get some referrals of guys that, just have 2 classes to complete their undergraduate degree, and it's a quick and fast, reconnection to the campus advisor. You guys provide us the information. We help them get the funding, and then they graduate very quickly. But as Connor and Matt said, we work individuals from, sometimes they come to us and they might be, 65 plus years old and they just want to go back and finish that degree. So again, we see them all, but we've had a lot of success stories. Another example, recently I've been working with a former NFL player who left college in the 90s, only had 2 classes left, really was very thankful for the help of the athletic department in helping us dig his transcripts, help us navigate campus procedures. Simultaneously, I helped him secure the funding to make this happen. And then when they said that he could take some classes through another institution, I worked with him in helping identify those classes so he can take them to transfer in. And now he's slated to graduate this summer from receiving his undergraduate degree. And as Matt said, specifically for our NFL population, they can work with us through the trust. They can reapply for the scholarship on multiple occasions. We've worked with some individuals for many, many years in helping them accomplish their goals. I worked with an individual who was referred to me wanting to complete his undergraduate degree. He did. Again, doing a patchwork of working with campus and figuring out where he could take classes. Again, the athletic advisors were very helpful in helping us do that, since we don't know each campus policies and degree audits for your schools. After he successfully completed his undergraduate degree, he worked with us to identify a graduate degree program in the goals. Educational psychology was the case for him, and now he just got accepted into a doctoral program. So those are some of the examples of the success stories that we have had over the years. There's many more. Again, working with you all, if you ever get an email from an AthLife advisor that's saying, hey, one of your former student athletes is interested in completing their degree, just know that we want to work in tandem with you to help them be successful. So now we want to see what questions you all have for us. How can we help you when you have those former students come to your campus?
Hey, Maria, this is Carrie. I'll pose this question to you. It comes from Dom, posted this question in the chat. And the question is, how do you support students with accessing academic support resources who may have a learning disability or need assistance with learning strategies?
Awesome. That is actually a great question. And we do see, Dom, we do see a lot of former players that come to us in the nature of our work, because we work with guys all over the country that come from many different schools. They don't always disclose to us that they have a learning disability. Sometimes that does come up in the course in working with us as we're trying to strategically ask questions. What we do is we encourage them to explore the resources of their campus, because we are not, I am actually a learning specialist by trade. Prior to coming to AthLife, I worked over 10 years in college athletics as a learning specialist. So we encourage those guys to seek the documentation that they may need, and we help them, either through you guys, connect them to the disability or accessibility office on your campus. Other questions?
I'm curious, so I'm very interested in student athlete development, not just on the college or like collegiate level, but moving forward into the professional. How would I make that transition or get my foot in the door doing that sort of work?
Carrie, do you want to take that question?
I'd be happy to. Hi, everyone. Carrie White. I'm another of the AthLife team. So thanks for joining today. Katie, I think that's a question we hear a lot. And I think the first thing I would offer is really surveying the various opportunities that exist in the professional space. So there are opportunities at the team level. like Matt talked about. So there are, player engagement folks, there are player development folks, and that seems to be growing. And, in football, there's only one per team, right? And some teams have two, but there's some limited opportunities there. There's also opportunities at the league level. And so at the NFL, there's various opportunities. At the NFLPA, there's various opportunities. So there's those league level, and the NFL has been doing it the longest. They've been doing this since the mid 90s when it was collectively bargained. The NBA is catching up, and Major League Soccer has more recently invested resources and made a commitment to this work. Then there are a variety of organizations like AthLife. I would argue, probably I'm biased, that AthLife does it best. But there are various organizations that provide services to the professional athletes and post-professional athletes. Network, connect with any of the AthLife team members on this call. I think we'd all be happy to just connect with you and learn more about you and share more of our pathway. We've all come to this work through slightly different places. So some of us come from the college academic support or student athlete development. Some come from doing it in the corporate space. Some come from prior work at the league. So I would just offer that. Any of the team would be happy to connect.
Great, thank you. I'll
Sure.
definitely connect with you guys.
Thank you, Katie. We have another question from Dom. What are common areas that we on campus can do better to support former students? Dom, great question. I think as Matt gave some of those suggestions for you guys, as you know that a former player has that potential that they're going to get drafted or going into a professional league. Really, one of the challenges that we have with some of them, he mentioned, are the holds on their accounts that's like a barrier to going back and finishing the degree. So the more education they can have on that front end, and I know it's challenging, I've been there. I had guys that were so focused on going pro that the last thing they wanted to hear from me is like, hey, take care of your holds and all of that. But that's absolutely one thing. Two, if you have someone coming to return to you, is the more you educate yourself about, what resources are out there for them, the more you're going to empower them. Because depending on your institution, there are some limitations, right? What you may not be able to pay for them to go back to school. Some schools do that. Not every school can do that. But then, letting them, maybe at the time when they were student athletes, they were not aware or taking advantage of all the resources that were available to them through their campus. So, we don't provide that support for them. We encourage them to reach out and explore what's on their campus. So the more you guys can do that and getting them through, what tutorial services are available to them, as, now they may have access. Some schools allow them to access, as former student athletes, the athletic department tutors. Some don't, but, what's available for them to campus to make for that to happen. I will say that a lot of them do return online. Also, former students, depending how far removed they are from their league retirement or from their professional sport retirement, they are now very different than the student athlete that you had on campus. They may have families, they may have jobs that they're trying to balance. So really getting a good picture of what situation they are as they're returning to campus is what's going to help them be the most successful. And then being creative. I think, are there any type of waivers, if they're stuck in a tricky situation, like, what can you guys do, to educate them? Like, hey, you can apply for, there might be this waiver that you don't have to take this class. We were talking about success stories. I worked with a gentleman. When he came to me, he was in his early 40s, and he had never been able to pass college algebra at his institution. He had taken it at multiple community colleges, and finally through the athletics department there, they really encouraged him to work with disability services, advocate for himself. He was able to, get a course substitution and graduate by using a class that he had already taken, because he had made, and I've never seen so many attempts at college algebra from an individual. But really is the more that you can understand their circumstances and what are those barriers, that's how you guys can best support them as they're coming back, because they are not anymore that college student athletes. And also remember, eligibility is no longer an issue here, that, a barrier for you guys in helping them. Any other questions?
I was going to ask another question. I think at the institution I serve, a lot of my students are very, at times can be very athletically motivated, and really trying to prepare them in that sense. So what are some, and now I'm getting a lot of my former students wanting to finish because our campus is now offering online services for classes. So my question for you is, as you're trying to, it seems like a lot of the athletes that you work with are coming to you directly, but do you do any outreach to teams, former athletes? What are maybe some challenges that they're sharing with you or reservations that they're having about trying to come back and finish? And how do you navigate those conversations?
Carrie, do you want to talk about?
So great question, Dom. I think from an outreach standpoint, the leagues, the unions that offer these earned benefits are trying to get the word out about the various benefits. And they do it a variety of ways. They do it through player reps. They do it through blast emails, blast text messages. They go through the agents sometimes, because agents often maintain fairly good relationships with former players. I think, what are the barriers? One of the things we talk about all the time as a team is the fact that the folks that we're working with were recruited out of high school to come to college, right? They were all highly recruited, and there were people clearing every possible hurdle along the way to make it as easy as possible for them to navigate admissions and enrollment. That's just not the case as a returning student, right? Like it's different. They have to figure out, how do I reapply? What do I have left? I blew off my advisor when I left campus. I don't think she's going to want to talk to me anymore. And so it's really just helping them figure out that, yes, there are going to be people there that are going to help you, and you've got to do the work. We're not going to do the work for you. Dom's not going to do the work for you, but we are certainly resources to help you. And so I think the barrier is just the uncertainty of the process, and knowing that there's several steps along the way. So one of the things we talk about a lot is readiness. And Maria, I've worked with Maria the longest of our team, and she's heard me talk about this a lot. When they're ready, they're ready. And it doesn't matter how many hurdles are in front of them, they'll figure it out. And when they're not ready, they will make excuses, and it won't be the right time for them to finish up. So sometimes we put little hurdles in front of them just to figure out, are you ready? Is this the right time for you? And when they jump over the hurdle, it's time. And then we just help them kind of figure out the pathway. Did that answer your question at all, Dom?
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure thing.
And we've definitely seen that uptick now with COVID. Previously, one of the barriers for some guys to return to school was that they no longer live where they play or where they went to college. And, some schools, as you know, they offer a lot online. And in some cases, what they have remaining will never be offered online. With COVID, that made it possible for some guys to, return and finish very quickly. And they were on top of it. They were very encouraged by that. So I'm sure you will continue to see people wanting to, reach out to you and coming back. But again, even because everything is, online right now, or may continue to expand, as Carrie said, they may not necessarily be ready. You want to encourage them to make sure that all the circumstances, do they still have the time to do this? As we know, going to in-person class is not the same as trying to do it online. And for some, the idea that, especially those, depending on how far removed they are, who never have taken an online class, or who maybe never had a lot of the best time management skills, or, that intrinsic motivation to complete a class, that might be a barrier, that they might not have that maturity yet to, okay, is this really what I want to do? And sometimes, like Carrie said, we put the hurdles like, hey, let's start with just one class at a community college that you can transfer over, that you can still take. And, are you willing to go and apply for admissions and get registered and apply for, for NFL guys for the trust scholarship? So they'll be ready when they're ready, and they'll let you know. We even us in our work, we have guys that have reached out. They've been referred to us from from the trust or from their leagues and unions, and they sound interested, and then we go through the process of getting things started, and then we don't hear from them, and it could be 5 years. And then they reappear, and now they're ready, and now things are more in place in their lives that they're back to committed. As Connor mentioned early on, we try to figure out their why, and sometimes completing that degree, they're not. Sometimes when they first come to you, they're just like, well, I don't have anything else to do. Like, I feel like I should do it, but sometimes that motivator is what's going to get them there. Any more questions?
As you guys are thinking of more questions, or I'm going to go ahead and share a QR code to get some feedback. So we ask to please fill it out. But as I said, please continue on with questions if you have them. I just wanted to go ahead and post this on here so that people don't start leaving and I don't get the opportunity to do this. So
Awesome.
Thank you all.
We do want to share that if any of you do have an athlete for, soccer, basketball, or football that come back to you that you think may or may not be eligible for some of these benefits, maybe they didn't play that long or whatever, you can always reach out to Carrie on our staff at cledger@athlife.com. And she can answer your questions and, maybe help you refer them to the source of where they could, start the process of getting those services in. In the chat, she put her email and her phone number where she can be reached. And if we don't have any more questions, we certainly want to thank everybody for taking time out of your day to come into our session. Again, we want to reiterate that, there's a lot of benefits out there for those of your athletes at One Pro. Encourage them when they come back to visit you and say hi. If you see them at those spring games, at those basketball games, ask them, how they're doing, if they're taking advantage of these benefits that they have. And Lindsay, I think we're done.